I want to really, yeah. But she gets it, and
and that was Donald Trump, the president of the United States. Trump was trying to mock transgender weightlifters, though Trump's point was garbled.
And he walks up, he could have gone, ding, 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 ding. I think it was 112 pounds, right?
White House staff are reportedly embarrassed by Donald Trump's lack of impulse control, his incoherence, and his growing signs of dementia. More on the staff panic in a moment. First, the Trump incidents are now coming in every appearance and interview. Donald Trump sat down with Fox News and forgot he had promised Sean Hannity an hour.
Great to see you, sir.
I didn't know it was a full hour. I thought it was going to be maybe 10 or 15 minutes.
I think I was pretty clear, but thank you for your time.
While discussing Venezuela, Hannity lobbed a softball and Trump whiffed.
Do you foresee a Venezuela that will have free and fair elections?
I do see that. I think that's happening. But before we do that, it's going to take a while to do. We have to rebuild the country. They couldn't have an election. They wouldn't even know how to have an election right now.
They wouldn't know how to have an election? Venezuela had parliamentary elections in 2025 and had a presidential election in 2024. The problem was that Maduro refused to accept vote totals showing that he lost. Instead, Maduro declared himself the winner. In the same Fox News interview, Donald Trump was asked about opposition leader Machado offering to give Trump her Nobel Peace Prize.
In 2023, she won over 92% of the vote to be the leader of the opposition. Maduro kept her off the ballot. Do you have any plans to meet with her? And would you accept the Nobel Prize she wants to hand to you?
Well, I understand she's coming in next week sometime. And I look forward to saying hello to her. And I've heard that she wants to do that. That would be a great honor. Mm-hmm. I did put out 8 wars. 8 and a quarter, because, you know, Thailand and Cambodia started going at it again. So
I'll put the list up.
I give a quarter, so it's you put the list out. It's a hell of a list. But I've stopped 8 wars. And I think, it's been a major embarrassment to Norway. Now, I don't know what Norway has to do with it, but that's where the committee is located, a lot of Norwegian people. And it's been a very big embarrassment to the country of Norway, whether they have anything to do with it or not. I think they do. They say they don't.
The question was not about whether Norway has anything to do with the Nobel Prize. The question was about Venezuelan opposition leader Machado. Hannity did not follow up. The awkwardness during the Fox News interview, though, may have been eclipsed by the panic behind the scenes among Donald Trump's White House staff. Several aides to Trump have told news organizations his lack of focus, forgetfulness, and inability to grasp basic facts and reality are getting worse. The staff note that Trump continues to fall asleep, even in public. After speaking about the U.S. removal of Maduro, Trump gave the White House podium over to Secretary of State Rubio, and Trump struggled to keep his eyes open.
He is not the legitimate president of Venezuela. That's not just us saying it. The first Trump administration, the Biden administration, the second Trump administration, none of those 3 recognized him. He's not recognized by the European Union and multiple countries around the world. He is a fugitive of American justice with a $50 million reward.
White House staff are reportedly now trying to limit how much time Donald Trump has to spend listening to others. The White House has also shortened Donald Trump's already abbreviated daily schedule. As Donald Trump's physical and mental decline get more obvious, there's a growing discussion in the halls of power about Vice President JD Vance. What kind of president would Vance be? Would he be better or worse for the United States? Well, this week, Vance startled legal observers while defending the ICE agent in Minnesota who shot and killed Renee Good.
The precedent here is very simple. You have a federal law enforcement official engaging in federal law enforcement action. That's a federal issue. That guy is protected by absolute immunity.
Absolute immunity? Under U.S. laws, there's no such thing.
Absolute immunity.
That is not correct. And the Vice President of the United States went to literally the most prestigious law school on the planet and knows that that's not accurate. Now, certainly law enforcement officers enjoy tremendous and very broad immunity for the actions that they carry out on their job. And they should, because they have to make very stressful on-the-spot decisions without the benefit of hindsight that we all have watching things on TikTok. That said, when someone steps far outside the bounds of either state or local law, or frankly, even their own guidelines as law enforcement officials, absolutely they can be held accountable both by the agency they work for or state, local, or federal authorities. So that's just simply not an accurate statement from the vice president.
But it gets worse than the vice president deliberately butchering the law. In falsely declaring that federal law enforcement officers have absolute immunity, Vance is embracing fascism. When federal troops can become shock troops with no accountability, the officers can do whatever they want, trample on the Constitution, and literally kill innocent people in cold blood without having to worry about legal consequences. This is the very power that fascist regimes have given to so-called federal shock troops. And Vance knows this. So while JD Vance may be more alert, articulate, and physically fit than Donald Trump, Vance's apparent willingness to dabble in extremism and authoritarian power may be reason to hope that Donald Trump hangs in there. At least with Trump, the instability and abbreviated schedules may limit the damage that Donald Trump can inflict. On the other hand, Trump also now seems to believe that his powers are nearly unlimited. Headline: Trump lays out a vision of power restrained only by his own morality. On topic after topic, President Trump made clear that he would be the arbiter of any limits to his authorities, not international laws or treaties. President Trump declared on Wednesday evening that his power as commander-in-chief is constrained only by his own morality, brushing aside international law and other checks on his ability to use military might to strike, invade, or coerce nations around the world. Asked in a wide-ranging interview with the New York Times if there were any limits on his global powers, Mr. Trump said, "Yeah, there is one thing, my own morality, my own mind. It's the only thing that can stop me. I don't need international law," he added. "I'm not looking to hurt people." This is the same person who has been accused by more than 20 women of sexual assault, was found by a court to be an adjudicated rapist, and was convicted by a jury of 34 felonies. And as president, Donald Trump has diminished foreign aid and cut Medicare, actions that have literally hurt and killed people. Clearly, Trump is oblivious. And dementia experts say that people who are afflicted are also often illogical and delusional. That's Donald Trump. And perhaps when Trump was asked about limits to his power, he meant not morality, but mortality. Sooner or later, Donald Trump is going to die. By many accounts, including from some of his own White House staff, Trump's brain is already decomposing. And Trump's decline across the political world is increasingly a source of added anxiety. Fox News is now using the mass public protests in Iran to try and slam Democrats in America, and that Fox effort is backfiring. A channel host argued that liberals and progressives should be on the streets protesting the tyrannical Iranian regime. Guest Corbin Trent, former communications director for AOC, noted a lot of Democrats are on the streets protesting the tyrannical regime, the one in the U.S. led by Donald Trump. Watch the bewildered reaction of host Rich Edson and fellow guest Matt Terrell.
Where is violence available, right? So we look at the protesters in Iran, and they're patriots. They're people that are trying to overthrow an oppressive regime. Here, if you have protesters, they should be shot in the face, and anybody that does it should have absolute immunity. So what's funny to me is, when is violence? When is protest? When is this all acceptable?
But isn't that the same though? Where's the protest against the regime that's killing people in the street right now? I mean, I don't see anybody at Columbia.
Well, they're doing those today, and it's called the ICE protests.
Well, but they talking about Iran at the ICE protest?
No, I think they're talking about the regime that's shooting people in the face. I mean, I think it's a very American idea to not want police forces to be able to shoot Americans indiscriminately. And the idea that JD Vance says is that they should have absolute immunity. You know, I thought this guy was a hillbilly. He had a book, Hillbilly Elegy. And I can tell you, hillbilly values, at least from where I'm from in Appalachia, are that the government ought not be able to have absolute immunity when they shoot you in the face. But maybe we came from a different Appalachia.
Over on Fox Business News, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem said that DHS and ICE agents will continue to respond aggressively to protesters, even though nearly all the protesters are acting peacefully and within their First Amendment rights.
We're going to continue to, if they conduct violent activities against law enforcement, if they impede our operations, that's a crime, and we will hold them accountable to those consequences. So unfortunately, when you don't have the partnership of the city, Mayor Fry and Governor Walz have been very clear that they're going to continue their rhetoric. They're going to continue to put criminals and corrupt illegal aliens above the people that live in that city and in that state.
What's the evidence that Minnesota leaders are putting criminals and corrupt illegal aliens above everybody else? Noam would not say, and Bartiromo didn't ask her for details. The fact is, crime and violence have been trending down in Minneapolis for years. City leaders point out that public safety was not a problem until the Trump administration's ICE agents started roaming the streets. Relatedly, through the first week of January, the only killing in Minneapolis was the ICE shooting death of 37-year-old Renee Good. At a recent House hearing on Capitol Hill, Democrat Jared Moskowitz noted to Republicans that the dangers are increasing because of incompetence throughout ICE and DHS, starting at the top with Secretary Noam.
She's not just an embarrassment to the country. She's an embarrassment to you and the president. Okay, she deserves to be removed from her job by the president, and if not impeached, not just for her complete failures in Homeland, but her destruction of FEMA. She's not even running the department. You guys know this. You guys know she's not running Homeland. Your governors and you all, when you need your FEMA money, you don't call Noam, you call Corey.
Corey is a reference to Noam Chief of Staff Corey Lewandowski. But back to ICE and the Trump administration's migrant deportation efforts. The latest data from Minnesota shows that over 80% of the people being arrested have never been charged with a violent crime. In other words, instead of targeting violent and dangerous migrants, as Donald Trump promised, ICE is removing people who have jobs and contribute peacefully to the Minneapolis community. And now, in the wake of the public protests, ICE operations are about to expand.
This was already the largest immigration action to date, with 2,000 agents spread throughout the Twin Cities. Now we know that it's going to be a 50% increase, 3,000 agents spread throughout that area. This is according to two sources. According to CNN's Priscilla Alvarez, Customs and Border Protection Commander Gregory Bovino had already been on the ground. He is going to be part of this operation.
Bovino has expressed no public remorse over the killing of Renee Good and has encouraged his ICE agents to double down on their aggressiveness. In the meantime, the gross and false narratives about Renee Good keep coming from the Trump White House.
That this deranged lunatic woman was trying to ram him over with her vehicle and was using that vehicle as a weapon, which justifies domestic terrorism. And unfortunately, we are seeing these instances play out in American communities across the country, where you have these organized, paid antagonists.
For the record, Renee Good was not a paid antagonist. She was not a domestic terrorist. And there's no evidence she was trying to ram over ICE agent Jonathan Ross. The video evidence indicates that Renee Good was turning away. An investigation might be able to settle this, except that the Trump administration's FBI has refused to share any forensic evidence with state and local officials, essentially blocking off the investigation. But getting to the truth, or speaking it, has never been a priority for the Trump administration. Instead, Donald Trump and his goons keep lying to justify and normalize a doctrine of state violence. It's the doctrine of republics that have forgotten why they were founded, and of governments that mistake fear for strength. The tragedy in Minneapolis is not only that Renee Good was murdered, it is that so many Trump officials and their right-wing sycophants, including on Fox, keep rushing forward to argue that Renee Good's death doesn't matter, and that next time, your death might not matter either. Thankfully, Democrats, including on Fox News, are speaking out. Did you know that the big wireless carriers like Verizon and AT&T made over $18 billion in profit last year? How? By overcharging you for unlimited data, most of which you probably aren't even using. But what if you could get paid to use your phone less and only pay for the data you do use? Well, with Noble Mobile, you can. For just $50 a month on their No Bull plan, you get unlimited data, and whatever data you don't use, You get cash back right in your pocket. People who switch to Noble can save an average of $500 to $1,000 a year. It's a no-brainer. And by switching to Noble, you're directly supporting TYT and our mission of bringing you honest, independent news. I'm David Shuster. Thanks for joining us.